Welcome to the MMA Road Show, episode number 17. I am John Morgan. Today, I'm joined with my man, Cold Coffee. We are back together after some time away. We are here in Las Vegas, our hometown, sitting out on the patio at Buffalo Wild Wings, Warm Springs, and Durango, enjoying what is a fine summer afternoon and also a 24-ounce can of Pabst Blue Ribbon, which it's a classy beer, regardless of what you think. It is an award-winning beer.
It did. It won back in America's Best back in 1893. You know, it's long overdue. I just don't think that they're entering it into contests anymore, or it'd be more recent.
It'd still be winning awards, right?
Obviously, but yeah, it's lovely outside today. It's like less than 100 degrees. Got sunny. You got to see the mountains off in the distance. I mean, this is nice.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Now, just to let you in on a little insight of the way Cold Coffee drinks his cold beer, this is an interesting thing that Cold Coffee does with his beverages when they're served to him in a can. Instantly, he takes his thumb, I guess, and just puts a huge dent in the side of it, just underneath the spout where he's going to be drinking. Now, really didn't know what this was for. It's obviously not for a place to grip. Or a place to.
You can grip it.
Well, I mean, if you were going to somewhere in the middle, but that is just so you don't lose track of which cold beer is yours.
Well, that is part of it. But also, when I first started doing it, it's funny. I always say when I started drinking as a kid, we used to always indent it. But the whole reasoning
was
in
third grade.
Back in the second grade, when I first had my first PBR. Actually, that would be when I was a young baby. My dad used to say I always pull myself up onto the coffee table where his beer would be, and I'd start trying to grab at it. So I started at a young age. But the dent, besides being able to identify it, the whole thought was that as you tilted it with the dent, the beer rushes up over it and down, so you could actually chug it quicker or drink quicker.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So I started doing that.
That's kind of like how Miller Lite had that little
the vortex,
for a while,
whatever
the vortex.
thing. Yeah, this is the
PBR vortex.
Yeah. So I do it on each one. One I know which can's mine, but also, yeah, if you would think of the can on the inside, it's just a little hump. It helps the beer over. It's a little.
There you go.
Beer waterfall.
Expert level analysis right there. A little pro tip for you there if you're not doing that. So, listen, as we get started here, let me just say, follow us, of course, on Twitter at the MMA Road Show. Of course, you can follow us personally at MMA Junkie John, at Ken S. Hathaway, or at the THEE Cold Coffee.
I need to start using that more. I do it every once in a while, but it's just so, I have that one that's there, and you started using it. It's like, fuck, which text should I do in the other? And then it's like, all right, I already got so many to manage.
Yep.
I'm like, then it just becomes a chore. But I didn't want to lose the opportunity of having that account name, so I made sure I locked it down. You got to grab onto it.
Follow us on at the MMA Road Show on Instagram as well. I'm still learning. I launched this Instagram as we started this, but I'm enjoying it. I'm liking Instagram, and yeah, I know that makes me old and out of touch with things, but it's a good thing. And you can kind of see where we've been as we travel throughout the world. You can kind of see what we're seeing, and when we're talking about stuff, you'll definitely have a chance to see it. And of course, however you're listening, of course, you can download it at the MMA Road Show directly, or you can go to iTunes. If you go to iTunes, subscribe and review, because if you review, you have the opportunity to say things like this. G345. Cold Coffee is the dumbest nickname I've ever heard of in my entire life. And while I've heard and seen John covering MMA on other media, I can't help but question the judgment of someone that not only associates with, but actually uses such a stupid nickname. For that reason, I've lost some respect for him. From now on, I will only refer to Cold Coffee as Wet Blanket.
Wet Blanket.
I encourage others to do the same.
I love it.
What's up with that?
I don't know. I guess that this is maybe a recent listener or whatnot. Maybe hasn't heard the earlier podcasts or stories. Of how Cold Coffee. And if you guys haven't clued in, you can listen to earlier episodes. It was a nickname given by the one and only Burt Watson, and as a tribute to Burt, and as a tribute to my time with the UFC, where most of the staffers that I still see still call me Cold Coffee. It's
CC,
kind of a tribute,
yeah.
Or CC for short. So, I'm sorry, G354, that you don't approve. Between us, I don't mind. You could call me Wet Blanket. That's fine. I'll just call you, ass fuck or something back. I'm just kidding. I would never say that. But, yeah,
please.
I
just did.
But it just did. But, yeah, no, please feel free. Review, say whatever, and we're more than happy to interact and tell you why we call each other certain nicknames and
There's
and
gotta be a way we
whatnots.
can log in and like
No, I
answer
think
these or
well, yeah. Wouldn't that be something just to make a review, just so we can answer reviews?
something. Well, listen. Then you could also be like Shalafi Rage. I listen to close to 10 different MMA podcasts now, like 40 years. I love the fact that you record on the scene while drinking. You and your guests provide that extra flavor that you can only get in that unique circumstance. Please keep on keeping it real. So
That's the motherfucker
thank
right
you.
there.
That's what's up.
That's what's up.
I
you
will
know.
buy that man a frosty beverage the next time.
I don't know if we've ever really said we do have a Facebook page. If people are on Facebook, you can feel free to like our Facebook page as well. You can do a search for the
And
MMA Road Show as well.
Here's the other thing that people don't know. After the Scotland episode, I had some people hit me up on Twitter and say, "What? We can show up for taping and drink beer with you and get drunk and
You most certainly can.
possibly end up back at our apartment, depending on how the day is going." You absolutely can. So if you're ever in town, wherever we are, feel free to show up. A live studio audience, nothing wrong with that. And who knows? We might just hand you a microphone. We'll definitely hand you a cold beer. So listen, a lot to talk about. First off, though, we have to talk about Stitch Duran. Man, just a crazy situation. Certainly has been the hottest topic in MMA this week, to be honest with you. It's really, seeing the traffic on MMA Junkie, it's just been anything we do, the story, the videos, anything just does massive traffic. And people are really, I think, more outraged about this than almost anything I've ever seen the UFC do. And obviously the UFC has made some decisions along the way that have pissed people off. And Dana White has always made it clear, listen, man, we're going to do what we're going to do. You be you, I'm going to be me. But, I mean, this was a huge shock, I think, to everybody involved. You had a chance to spend an hour or 2 hours, actually, in studio the other day with Stitch, who came into MMA Junkie Radio. You also had kind of a little quick one-on-one interview that we're going to play here in just a little bit that people can hear, kind of a condensed version of everything. But I guess just give me your feeling on the news itself and what it was like to be around Stitch the other day, as he had a pretty emotional day.
Yeah, one I was very, very bummed about. He's one of the most, I think, iconic figures you think about when you see guys getting in there and putting the Vaseline on there. The guys that go in there and, like, fixing these guys up, I mean, there's just a force to be reckoned with. In fact, a lot of the techniques that a lot of the cut guys do are techniques that Stitch developed and really passed on. So, I mean, he's been at the forefront of this cutman technology or cutman ways, whatever you want to say. And so for them to kind of cut him loose just so quickly and just so what seemed offhand was just so shocking to me. And to be there yesterday, definitely when I heard he was going to be in the Junkie Radio studio, I was like, definitely I want to go and get a chance to see there and maybe get a chance to talk with him. But, you could see the emotion that it wore on him, and his family was there. His son came. His daughter was there. His wife, canceled a business trip, or maybe it was the daughter, whatever. They canceled so they could be there in support for him. And, even one of his other daughters calls online, and you could see the emotion and the outpouring that, this is something that's really affecting him. I mean, I know that he's going to do well, and he's going to land on his feet and something's going to happen, but it's still, for somebody to just do that, it showed such a lack of respect. I think that's what almost affected him the most, and that just really, he was just beat up a little bit about it, and just like, whoa, like, what is this? And one, you can't even call me. You're gonna send a text, then just have some random, maybe not so much random employee kind of call and say, hey, they've decided they don't want to use you for UFC fights anymore. Like, after all the time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears this guy has done for them, it was a little shocking, but it felt good to get in there and hear him say his side of the story. And then, I was lucky enough to capture a couple questions with him afterwards, just kind of rehashing. I just wanted to, give him another chance to kind of say his two pieces. And but it was great. I mean, I thought the radio show went good, and there's we put an archive of that up on our website. So if you haven't seen that, feel free to take the time. Burt Watson called in. He had actually hit me up before I went there and was like, hey, what's this radio station numbers? What's the call letters or whatever? I'm like, well, I don't have call letters. It's like on Sirius. And I didn't know what Sirius's thing is because I don't have the satellite. And luckily they went into a commercial break, and I'm like, sort of yelling over to George. I'm like, George, what's the channel on this? Like, Burt wants to get on here. And I know he had tried to reach out to Stitch earlier in the day, and Stitch didn't get it. And, I love Burt to death. A lot of times he might have drafted a text and maybe it didn't go through, like he'll be the first to say that sometimes technology is not his best friend.
That's right.
So but I know he wanted to reach out, and I think when the opportunity presented himself to call in and give Stitch words, man to man, and kind of say something, it was really special to be there and to see Stitch's reaction to that. And it
was cool. I was just watching online, and I thought it was
nice.
great. I mean, I've had a lot of people ask me over this week kind of what my thoughts are on the situation, and answering on Twitter is kind of tough, 140 characters, and it is a very complex situation. I mean, the first off is I do think it's unfortunate, and I think it sucks. Stitch is widely regarded as the best at what he does, and that's an important job in the UFC, man. It's not just some secondary auxiliary role. I mean, it's a big part of helping make sure the fighters have every opportunity for, as he always says, that one more round. And so I think it's very sad that this happened the way it did. It just seems to me like maybe there was some other type of resolution. That said, I mean, I don't entirely blame the UFC for what they're doing. I understand, first off, why they made the decision that, hey, cutmen can't wear logos. We're not allowing anybody to wear logos, so you can't wear your own things in here and sell your own sponsorships. And I get that, and Reebok wouldn't allow that, and I totally understand. And then I do see that, Stitch had a couple interviews. He talked to MMA Junkie Radio. He talked to Bloody Elbow. He took to social media. I saw him retweeting a lot of things, and I don't think that helped his cause at all. I think he was not necessarily him saying anything disrespectful, but by retweeting basically other people saying F the UFC or F that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that puts the employer in a difficult position. And, if you and I were to start talking trash about MMA Junkie, we'd be in some trouble. We might be facing termination. So I definitely can't say that I don't see the UFC's point of view on it, because I do. Mm-hmm. But, man, it just seems like, gosh, isn't there some kind of resolution that can be had? It does feel reminiscent of the Burt Watson situation to a little bit, and we've talked to Burt both on record and off record, and Burt will admit he got fired up a little bit. He probably didn't do himself any favors by the way he handled the situation as well, but at the same time, when people like that have been around forever and when they've really become a fabric of the sport, I mean, when I was writing the piece to put on MMA Junkie, the way I put it was, a figure so iconic, that he's or so synonymous with the UFC that he was featured in video games. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, they had Stitch in there doing the video, and I remember when that came out, how cool people were like, "Dude, they got Stitch in there! Like, that's awesome!" Like, that's so silly that a cut man would be that, but that's how much of a figure he is, and so it is unfortunate. I just feel like, maybe there could have been some sort of resolution other than just terminating him. And as you said, he's going to get work. He's going to get work in MMA. He's going to get work in boxing. He's going to be fine, but it just feels weird.
Yeah, and I mean, you never know. He might go back to acting. I thought he was great in Battlestar Galactica, and all those other ones where there was that movie where he was like the principal.
He's fantastic at playing the guitar as well, so he's got that as well. He's got, the man's got multitude talents, man. He really does.
And if you guys aren't getting the humor or whatever, Edward James Olmos, he's oftentimes
or Santana.
Or Santana is often misthought to be that person, and it's funny. But yeah, even they started playing Santana in the thing during the thing, and he looks over, he's like, he's like, get on them Congos or whatever. Just like, yeah. And it felt awesome because here he is doing his radio show, but he's still. And going through all this stuff, still had that Stitch personality, that character, and that's what I loved about him. He works his ass off, and I don't know if I've told you, like, there would be often times when we were traveling to international shows. I don't sleep that well on the plane, so there'd be times I'm like, all right, I'm just go back in the back, and usually they leave a little wine or something, where
Sure.
for people can have a little wine, maybe help you go to sleep. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go back there and get me something to just try to help me get to sleep. And sure enough, there was multiple times I kind of pull that drape to go back there and grab a wine or grab a Heineken, and there's Stitch off to the side. He's like, oh, you can't sleep either, and we'd end up just sitting back there and chatting. That's actually kind of how our friendship got a little better as well, and I really got to understand that, he's more than just this guy that went out there and does this magical shit that somehow seals these huge wounds in guys' faces to where they can go back out and fight. It was like, this guy is like, he's a wonderful individual, and you never want something like this to happen to somebody like that.
It's not going to be the same. I mean, he always comes in later in the week. We spend a whole week in a place. He always comes in obviously kind of late. So the cut men don't have to be there real early, but so you wouldn't see him a lot during fight week as far as like hanging out at the hotel and things like that. But man, fight night for sure. All the time he would definitely come up on press row. Give a little fist bump, got the latex glove on already, so he's not giving a handshake, but a little fist bump, and good luck to everybody tonight, and just kind of talking to him, and then of course seeing him do his work, and what's crazy too is a lot like Burt Watson. You would hear fighters over the years talk about kind of that calming influence of just knowing Stitch is wrapping your hands, and knowing that he's in your corner, man. A lot of people really kind of felt some ease from that, the same way that Burt Watson, it's time to roll and all that. They would feel comfortable. It's just kind of a mental thing that I think they're going to have to get over a little bit. So
because he would talk to him. Like, we filmed him before doing the hand wraps, and he actually would talk with him, chat with him, loosen him up a little bit, and then just ask him how things are going. Like, you good for this? You ready for this? Ready for this? Just like you could just see the fighters. It was such a process for these guys, especially guys that use them over and over and over. You could tell, like, that's just like for them. That's the first part of the night, and then you got Burt that was always like that second handshake right before they go out into the ring. So it was like Stitch started the process, wrapping their hands. Then the commission comes over, signs off. They put their gloves on. Then they're like, all right, shit. And then it was met by Burt telling them, it's time, baby, it's time to roll. And it's just like, it's such an integral part for a lot of these guys. I think that's going to be such a huge experience and a huge difference for them that, TJ, like, I think he was due to go do TJ. So now TJ is going in to have his title defense coming up, but it's going to be somebody else that's in there doing it.
It's weird. I don't think people realize that sometimes. I mean, hardcore followers of the sport probably do, and probably most people listening to this podcast are going to be hardcore followers and they'll get it. But if you don't, it is really something. I mean, the psychology of fighting, man, it's such a mental game. I mean, yes, the physical grind that these guys put themselves through every single day is incredible. What they do in the gym to prepare themselves for these fights is amazing. But even at the highest level, people still get nervous. You hear guys who are like, even a guy like Donald Cerrone, who by all accounts gives zero fucks about anything, has admitted, before fights, he's like, I'm never doing this again. Like, what am I doing here, dude? Like, I am about to lock myself in a cage with another dude that's trying to knock me out in front of thousands of people and friends and family and TV. Like, you get nervous, man. You just start second-guessing yourself. What have I done to choose this as a profession? And you said it, man. You sit down to get your hands wrapped, and Stitch is right there helping you out, helping you get that psychology right. And then, Burt's right there helping you get that psychology right as well. And I think people are going to miss that. Not to say there's not capable people. I mean, the operations, Burt had a team of people, and the operations people that are in his place are fantastic. I mean, they're great individuals.
Oh, for sure.
And same thing with cutmen. It's not like Stitch was the only one. I mean, there's other cutmen and cut women even now with Swayze in place. I mean, there are people that are great at what they do, but it's not Stitch. It's not Burt.
Stitch.
You know what I mean? I think that's going to take some adjustment. Newer fighters, it'll happen. I mean, fighters are changing all the time, and the roster's overturning, and there'll be people that come in that it won't make a difference to because they never knew anything different. But I think the ones that knew, they're just going to feel that little hole.
Stitch, I think, was probably one of the first names I knew even associated with the UFC. Back when I first started watching, because you'd see fighters, and you're learning fighters' names, and then you would see fucking that guy that looks like everybody we already mentioned, and it's like, well, his name's Stitch. I'm like, oh, even this fucking nickname is cool. The dude just emanates fucking coolness, and he was literally one of the first personas or personalities of the UFC and mixed martial arts and fighting sports that I ever remembered who it was.
Worth revisiting, I think, probably at this time. If you haven't ever read his biography, From the Fields to the Garden, it's worth a read. It's actually a good read. Beyond what he ever has accomplished in the UFC, Stitch has led a pretty incredible life, and there's some really neat chapters in there. So if you've never read From the Fields to the Garden, it's worth checking out, especially right now. With kind of the end of an era happening, I think it's definitely worth a read. I was very entertained by it. Or as junkie listeners came up with as well, if you're not interested in that book, you can read the biography of George Garcia, which is From Mrs. Fields to Olive Garden. So I don't know. I can't remember. I was trying to give credit to the person that came up with that. Like that's pretty damn funny. So all right, we're gonna take a break here on the patio and grab another round of frosty beverages. At least I am. Cold coffee's got some other things to do today, but me not so much. So I'm gonna order another round. While we do, sit back, relax, and listen to the interview that Cold Coffee did with Stitch Duran on the day that he came in to visit the MMA Junkie Radio Studios and just recount the craziness that has been the last week in his life.
All right, Stitch, unfortunate situations, that kind of brought you here, and it's kind of put you in the news. But can you tell me where you were when you found the news and kind of what was your immediate reaction when you heard that, hey, your services are no longer needed?
Well, Kenny, I was at Costco shopping actually, but I knew that there was a firestorm that was already lit with all the fans responding, to the article that I had written out. And but I got a call or a text from an individual from the UFC wanted to know if I had time to talk. And I told him I was at Costco, but I'll be home, at 4:30. And at 4:30, I called them, and I was told right off the bat, with not much of an introduction, that they don't want you to work any more UFC events for the article that I did on BloodyApple.com. And the conversation was short right after that, and then I let my friends and family know, and from there it's gotten to this point.
Now you said when you were talking earlier on the radio, there was nothing that you thought in this article that was anything really incendiary or really going on. You just kind of were just stating the facts as how facts were.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My wife and I read it again last night because I'm thinking maybe I said something I shouldn't have said, and maybe I did. And me being said that I'm losing sponsorship monies for this Reebok deal with no compensation whatsoever. They want me to wear the Reebok outfits, but they don't want to compensate me, and I'm losing my Reebok or my Bad Boy sponsorships and other sponsorships, and there's just no discussion in me being involved with that, and that's what I mentioned, and I guess they didn't like that.
I think a lot of people kind of forget the fact that you guys are out there, that you are wearing, you saw sponsors on the back. I think a lot of people forget, what a big part that you guys are and that you guys are doing that. Was it unfortunate that they didn't really even bring you guys into the discussion when it came into and said, hey, we're going to do this Reebok deal, we can't see anything else? They never really thought about you guys.
No, no, not at all, man. And you're absolutely right, Kenny. There was no discussion whatsoever. When we did bring it up, when we were informed like a year ago that we were going to lose our sponsors and all that, we kind of freaked out because we thought it was going to be shortly after that. A year later, that's when they make the decision. But during that whole year, we try to talk to the higher ups, and nothing was. They said, there's nothing in the kitty for you guys, and you guys won't be involved in any kind of compensation, but you will have to wear the Reeboks. And we amongst the cutmen, we all spoke, and the majority of us spoke, at least the veterans. And I'm the one that took the bullet for the team, brother.
I was going to say, you've kind of been the one that I know in talk with you in the past, you helped develop a lot of the cut techniques, the way that you were the forefront in the practice of taking care of the fighters. But now, did you kind of feel like it was on you to kind of as well take the lead and say, hey guys, all right, people know my name, I'm willing to take the heat and come out and say something?
Yeah, and that's always been my nature anyway, is to speak forward or speak about something that's not being done right, and at least bring that up to the attention of the people that are doing it. And I just did it through an interview, but yeah, I'm the one that I knew that the other ones wouldn't do it and couldn't do it because they depend on this job to make a living. I have other sources of income and all that, but not that. It's just more of what was wrong, and I always try to make it right. That's what I try to do.
And were you surprised with the support and everybody reaching out, let alone in the community from other cutmen? You mentioned earlier that some of the guys reached out and said thank you for what you're doing. But what about the fighters? What about the fans? I mean, how has that support been, and what does that mean to you? Oh,
it's been tremendous. It's been very uplifting. And just finished MMA Junkie Radio here, and Goals was saying that there's been like 26,000 tweets in less than 24 hours that have responded to that my name is involved in that. So to me, I definitely didn't expect this, Kenny, and I don't think the UFC did either. But it's people have said I was the chosen one to come forward and speak the truth. that so many other people wanted to do, including the fighters, and everybody has to watch themselves. They walk in eggshells, and I'm the one that manned up, and I'm the one that got slammed right off the bat.
Well, I know you said you're going to take some time to see if they want to come back to the table, maybe say something. I know you're getting offers, but what's the immediate point? What are you going to do right now? I mean, you're going to take a little time just to address the family, but take some offers. I mean, what's the plan going forward immediately?
Yeah, well, the offers I've gotten, and I have gotten a bunch of offers, and I'm telling them, you know what, let's talk next week, because this week, number one, I'm still responding back to a lot of the fans that are responding to me, and I want to do that. I've always been a fan person. But I'm here with my agent Ray Garza and my wife and my 2 kids, and we're going to sit down and see what the future brings, and see what route we want to take, and see what happens. But yeah, this has been a crazy week. Plus, I have a boxing event. Beirut Shumanov is fighting BJ Flores Saturday, so Thursday, Friday, and Saturday I'll be busy, working that show.
And if you could, just for the final question, what was great was I was watching you take these phone calls and stuff. I could see a little bit of emotion come out. It's got to be a little bit touching. So if you had a moment to say something to the fans out there that are giving you support, what would you say back to them?
Well, I'm going to have to tell you guys, thank you very much for what you guys are doing. It's something that I didn't expect. But whenever you get this type of surprise and these fans are coming forward and really doing it out of their own hearts, you heard the calls that we had today, and you've seen the tweets and you've seen the messages. But I want to thank you guys really for all the support. It's usually me that has been taking care of the fighters. Now the fans are taking care of me. So I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.
Can't wait to see you again. Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure, man. Thank you, Kenny.
Welcome back to the MMA Road Show. John Morgan, Cold Coffee, sitting here on the patio in Las Vegas, Buffalo Wild Wings, Warm Springs, and Durango, enjoying just a fantastic afternoon, a nice round of PBRs. Nothing wrong with a little Pabst Blue Ribbon every now and then. It's a nice, cheap alternative. It's just good.
It's America's red, white, and blue, man. It's right there in the can.
So we're here in Las Vegas this week. We've got staff up in Chicago handling UFC on Fox 16. Matt Erickson, Justin Park, both doing that. So we're kind of hanging back. We were on the road last week in different parts of the world. You, of course, were in San Diego, California for UFC Fight Night 71. I was in Glasgow, Scotland for UFC Fight Night 72. I think I said that right. They told me I was saying it wrong. It's not Glasgow. It's Glasgow.
Glasgow.
Yeah, I think I say it like that. Just real quick to talk about those events. Short event for you. You weren't there a lot of time. I spent the week, as if you could pick up from last week's episode, drinking a lot of scotch, way more scotch than I should, and just having a good time, a lot of Guinness. I did get a chance to visit St. Andrews, which was really cool for me. I didn't even show you this. I changed it to my desktop. A picture I took while I was out there on the course is now my desktop, which if I can clear all my windows away here. So
oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Look at that. Is that the 18th hole?
That's the first and the 18th. That's now my desktop picture that I took as I was walking across the fairways there. So a very cool experience for me. I will say, good time hanging out with the European media. Obviously, our European team is fun to hang out with and hang out with a lot of other people as well. Michael Bisping was incredible all week long. The first time I saw him in the week was actually at Nando's, a favorite little haunt of both of ours. Great little chicken place. If you ever get a chance to get some Nando's.
He was eating at Nando's earlier in the fight week?
What's that?
He was at Nando's earlier in the fight week?
Yeah, he was at Nando's, and I was sitting there, and he actually walked up and saw me. I didn't even see him. He walked up and was just, hey, Mr. Morgan, how you doing? Just wanted to say hello. I mean, just professional. Obviously I've covered a lot of his fights, and he actually said, I think in the press conference, he looks around, he's like, other than you, he's like, I don't even know who anybody is in here.
Yeah.
So a guy that I've spent a lot of time with, covering his entire career, and very cool of him to walk up and say hello. It's funny. I actually saw him after the weigh-ins, after the open workouts at Nando's as well. We ran into him at Nando's a couple of times.
But so apparently he likes Nando's as much as we do.
I think he does. And if you think about it, a fighter cutting weight, Nando's isn't bad.
No, it's not bad at all. Especially if you get it's rotisserie chicken, so it's probably not as fatty as a lot of other stuff. And good for him. If his weight's on point, we can go out and.
Well, from what I didn't walk over. I heard on his plate was like a half piece of chicken. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't much.
Yeah, but
it was funny because he I mean, Michael Bisping is just so great at what he does. I know that he gets hated on a lot, but the guy really is a professional when it comes to his attitude, his behavior, and how he sells fights. You know, we saw him after the open workouts, and at the open workouts, he was trying to rile up Talaslides, but couldn't get him going. And you know, we were telling him, hey, you know, great job at the open workouts day, because he did do a great job of talking to the crowd. And he was like thanking the little kids that were here, and just doing all the things that you do to help build it. And he's saying, listen, I know I'm English and you're Scottish, but we're all UK. We all have the same passports. Kind of building.
That's
I thought
cool.
that was cool. But it was funny because he even said. When we saw him at Nando's, he's like, well, I tried to get things going up, but Talis wouldn't do anything with it. He's like, but just wait till weigh-ins. I'll get it going. And he did, of course. And that's Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping, you got to start shooting your pictures as soon as he walks over, because he's going to push somebody. You know he's going to be yapping. And he did. And, of course, he had the great fight as well. But it makes me think, Michael Bisping's career is winding down. I think he's a guy that's going to be missed. He really has had some big fights over the course of his career, and he does a great job of getting you excited about fights. Even if you're not excited going into fight week or whatever, he's going to give that last little bit of flavor. He's going to talk. He's going to do the interviews. He's going to trash things a little bit. And, man, I'm gonna miss that guy when he's done.
You're right. And whether you love him or you hate him, he is definitely a character that I think once you've seen him on screen and you see him during a fight week, he's not somebody that you easily forget. And but maybe you're right. Maybe he's also – but he's always seemed like he's got it. It's not like he's just now at the end of the career, like I realize and I got to work the cameras or do whatever. He's always done a good job of that. But maybe now it just seems so much more natural, because maybe he's finally learned how to really enjoy it, because maybe he is thinking like, I'm not going to have all that many more of these. I love that he took the time to thank his family, and, man, what a lovely wife. I was like, well done, sir. Well done. I can see what you're fighting for, son. But, no, I thought that was great. He gave props back to his family and stuff, and he was I've always liked the guy, and regardless of, what you might think about some of the stuff that he might say during fight week, a lot of it is for show. It's to rile it up. Like you said, he's doing it for the fans, making a spectacle of it, But, yeah, and he just goes out there and throws it. And I was surprised that went as far as it did, but that was a good fight.
It was. Talis had been on a nice little run, and Talis cracked him hard a couple of times. Right in front of us, I know there was one particular punch. I was like, oh, that might have changed things right there. It was in the third round. And Mike fought on and earned the decision, and I think it was a good decision. I heard some people didn't like the decision. I thought it was pretty clear that Mike Bisping had won that fight. So I will share one other thing. I'm just putting this out there so everybody in the world knows it. Evan Dunham hates me.
Oh.
Evan Dunham absolutely hates me. Have
you always picked against him again or something?
No, it's just, and I did pick against them, so that never helps, I'm sure. And I hope fighters understand it's nothing personal. I'm just forced to make picks. It's not like I really want to make picks, but I have to. It's funny because Evan Dunham is a guy that I met fighting at Tachi Palace Fights in Lemoore, California. And Tachi Palace Fights, we broadcasted a couple of their events on MMA Junkie, and so I went out there and did commentary for him, which if you ever get a chance to go out there, it's really cool because, the WC was out there, Palace Fighting Champion. They've had some great fights over there over the years, and it's got a fantastic hotel. Seriously, one of the most comfortable beds I've ever had in my entire life is sleeping at Tachi Palace Fights, which is crazy. But met Evan Dunham one night. He fought, and man, I think it was against Akbar Areola, if I remember. I can't remember who it was. I wish I had pulled it up before the show started. I think it was against Akbar Areola. But I remember it being a very, very tough fight, and Evan Dunham came back and just showed a ton of grittiness, ton of heart, won the fight. Went to the after party afterwards, and Evan was just kind of sitting there like by himself, and he's kind of a quiet, reserved guy, and just sitting there, and I was just like, man, I just had to go out of my way to tell you what a fantastic fight that was. And he was just like, thanks. All right, well, thanks. All right, have a good night. He just doesn't get excited about stuff. But somewhere in the course of his career, he lost a fight, and he swears he saw somebody on MMA Junkie trashing him in the recap. Like, I think, as the story goes, as it was relayed to me one time, he was at the hospital reading, like, the reviews of his fight, and that Junkie said he was, like, weak or, basically insulting him. Which I swear to God that never happened because, I think we're pretty much down the middle.
I would say
we used
so.
to not even have Ben Folks. So, Ben Folks is kind of our opinion guy, our column guy. And I've started to do a little bit more of, like, stuff on video, but not much. But that's just not who we are, and I don't know where. But bottom line is, Evan Dunham to this day, even though he lives here in Las Vegas, even though I met him before his UFC career started, he hates me.
Well, maybe got mistaken. I mean, that sounds like something more you'd see on BJPenn.com. Let's be honest. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard you trash a fighter, especially not on air or not on record. But no, Evan's a great dude. I mean, he's a good fighter. I would be in the same ranks of the people that didn't think that he was going to pull it out and make it such a, in a sense, one-sided fight.
Yeah.
He definitely dictated the fight, and good for him, man. I mean, if he keeps going like that and he's able to control the guys like that, he's gonna get a string of wins for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't the most exciting fight, but he even said it. He's like, listen, I'm here to fight smart, and I know my wrestling's better, and so I'm gonna out wrestle the guy.
Yeah.
Sure enough, he did. You were in San Diego during the week. I stayed up and watched that fight. I went. It was just part of the reason I sounded as drunk as I was. No, I mean I was just drunk, but I was on like zero sleep as well. Man, props to those European fans that stay up to watch these cards in the middle of the night, because that San Diego card, man, the main event went off at like 5 in the morning.
Wow.
So it was tough, but very quick trip. The UFC didn't do a lot of fight week events. I think just operationally it was difficult for them. It was right after International Fight Week. So they didn't have a lot of stuff set up in San Diego, but you were pretty much in and out, man. I think you were in Monday afternoon, out Thursday morning.
Yeah.
So, not a lot of stuff that happened, I know, behind the scenes, other than the fact that San Diego is a beautiful town. Frank Mir picked up another incredible first-round victory. But just, quick thoughts on your time in San Diego.
Well, San Diego, it was nice. Again, I was able to reconnect with some of my old UFC buddies and actually got to go around town and see a little bit of this and that. It was beautiful being there. Coming from this area, going to a climate that was like 70-some degrees and near water, it was wonderful to be there. I mean, it literally everybody. I don't think I heard a person there that was upset about their time there. And in fact, the general thinking was, can I stay here later for some reason? Can I find some way to stay in San Diego? But again, yeah, the load was light that week, but it was still good, and I thought the fights that night were great, and I thought Mir looked great, and it was great hearing from him, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Suddenly, Frank Mir is a guy that matters again in the heavyweight division, which is pretty interesting. So,
yeah.
This week, UFC on Fox 16 is in Chicago. As we said, Cole Coffey and I will be watching it on TV. Just quick thoughts on Chicago. First of all, I've never actually been to a UFC event in Chicago, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, Matt Erickson. Well, first of all, but back when it was just me and Dan Stupp, Dan lives in Ohio, so that was kind of like the guy that was closest. It, didn't make sense. You go handle Chicago, and then of course he brought on Matt Erickson, and Matt Erickson lives in rural Indiana, but I think basically where he lives, if I remember right, is about 10 miles into the Indiana border, which the Indiana border is essentially like the east side of Chicago.
Yeah,
it's right there.
Right there.
So I've actually never been to an event there, which is kind of crazy. I know that you have been there before. Now this, of course, is a summer event. The UFC had been going out there in like January. They went January like 2 or 3 years in a row. You were working for the UFC at the time. You went out there when it was basically like 1 degree, right?
It was brutal. I mean, it was probably if I had ever forgot what cold felt like, this was like a reminder that you would never forget for quite some time. Even I remember I think there were Brazilians on the car, and they were just like, what the hell is this? Like, this is the worst part ever, It was so cold. I remember we shot some stuff outside, and literally our equipment was like freezing on us. It was that cold. So granted, we only shot a couple things before we decided this is not going to work, But what a storied history of a city. I mean, they have great food, just neat scenics, beautiful place.
I was say, if I remember right, that's when Megan O'Leary was kind of just starting with the UFC, I want to say.
Relatively new.
And I remember you guys, because you guys used to go do, and I think the UFC kind of canned it and decided they didn't like the concept, but I liked it. You guys would go do like kind of a city feel shoot, which we've even talked about, maybe trying to do something like this for Junkie. It's tough with our schedules the way they are, and that's kind of, I won't say our thought on the podcast that we're doing here with the MMA Road Show, but a little bit of that. I mean, we've thought about doing some video, but you guys would go out and hit up like local restaurants, local scenes, and things like that. And you did a little bit of that with Megan back in the day as she was just starting with the company.
Yeah, we went and it was called Local Flavor, and I'd love it if we can somehow port that over to Junkie, because I think all the different places that we go, it makes sense for us to kind of give a little spotlight, to the towns that we go into. I mean, I certainly know we help certain bars and restaurants that we visit with the Road Show.
Yes,
we
bars
definitely
have
do
picked
that.
up some business.
But we went to Lou Malnati's, which is one of the sort of storied pizza places. Another one there is Giordano's. But we went to Lou Malnati's and actually got to go back through the kitchen, and Meg was able to help out making some pies and stuff. It was great, And then we did the whole, they brought them out. We were able to eat them. It was absolutely delicious. And then we went to another place there, which was Al's Subs, and it was like it was for the hot beef sandwich or something along those lines. Not the hot beef
jokes
injection,
waiting
but
to
the
happen.
I know, right? But it was wonderful, and like the restaurants were happy.
That's where they dip the
they
whole
take the big
sandwich.
French dip and they dip it down in there and
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, it's so good.
And then you got to stand like this to eat it.
Yeah,
I
there's a
remember
whole
that
process
piece.
of eating
I remember
it.
that piece.
Actually, we have one of those in Vegas now on Sahara.
Really?
Yeah, Al's Beef. Yeah, it's on Sahara by Sahara and Rainbow. So we should go check it out or something.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, it was great going through and seeing that. What a place. I mean, and also they have like one of the most unique beers that I've ever had. Not your father's root beer. And literally, when you get it in Chicago, you can get it, and the strongest that they have is like 10% alcohol.
Whoa.
But it literally tastes like root beer, better than any A&W root beer that you've ever had, and it's literally beer. And they sell it in small batches, and now they've started to actually distribute it, and you can get it in like 6-packs and whatnot, but it's like a lighter version, maybe 5% or something along those lines. But I want to say it's called Not Your Father's Root Beer, Not Your Daddy's Root Beer. Not Your Father's, I think. But, it was absolutely incredible, and it's a Chicago thing. It's a Chicago brewery. Absolutely phenomenal. But, yeah, I mean, what a
Important note,
place.
if we ever do on MMA Junkie do something called Local Flavors, I thought of it entirely by myself. It was not anything that Cole Covey had anything to do in terms of intellectual property. It was completely originally my idea.
Completely your idea.
I should also say, in terms of Chicago, if I may be wrong in saying this, so you correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe Chicago is, of course, the home of the greatest story ever told by one at Fiasco. Wait, can we give us? Yeah, at Fiasco Jones.
At Fiasco Jones,
Okay.
yes.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to give his
I
Twitter.
think it could be, and he is actually there, and I thought about, man, maybe we can get him on the damn phone, to tell the story, but I think it's going to take some working, so I think everybody needs to kind of help us, to tweet to Fiasco Jones.
Please.
I know some people have, because he brought it up to me. He's like, man, you got people fucking tweet me about the story. So I say we'll keep up on him. We'll help him tell his story.
At Fiasco Jones and let him know the greatest story ever told. This would have been a perfect week for it. Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago, and that was right when he started his career with the UFC as well, which is even funnier when you finally hear it. It's just like this. It's the story to end all stories. The story that if you think people can say a couple things now and get let go of companies, what this guy did, he should have been banned from the state, and never set foot again.
Like if Stitch Duran would have done this, you'd have just been like, bro, they had to fire you.
It's obvious,
The main event this week, TJ Dillashaw, Renan Barao. Certainly this isn't the breakdown show, but I'm looking really forward to it. Funny that TJ Dillashaw was such a huge underdog. It's tough for me because I'm a big fan of both these guys. TJ Dillashaw I met very on in his career before. I want to say I met him before his UFC career as well. Just in some visits to Team Alpha Male. Obviously, those guys have always been really good to me. Possessor of, I still believe, the greatest nickname in combat sports today, but he won't use it, and that is Lieutenant Dan. That is the nickname that they originally gave to him. And if you've never heard the story, it's Lieutenant Dan, of course, is the character from Forrest Gump, the military captain there that lost his legs in battle. And what it came from was TJ Dillashaw, they said, when he first came in there to train with them, was so intense, just like throwing down, like when it was time to spar, like he didn't understand, like we're going 50, 60%, like he was going 100% like every time. And I believe it's Uriah. I'm going to give credit to Uriah that came up with this as well. I was told that it reminded him of Lieutenant Dan in that scene in Forrest Gump where he's like on the mast of the ship and the storm is coming and he's like, fuck you, God, give me what you got, let me have it. And so I just always thought that was the greatest name, but he won't use it. And I was like, well, dude, not like, I think I even tweeted him like after he won the title. I'm like, all right, dude, like I get it. You were worried people won't take you serious. Like now you're the champ. Like they have to take you serious. Like reinstitute Lieutenant Dan, because I thought that was just the most fantastic nickname ever. So, but Renan Barao, man, I've again, I've been in a lot of Renan's fights. I was at some of his WC fights, and obviously I've gone down to Brazil so often. He's been a guest fighter at a lot of fights, and I always see him. He's got that big smile. Now he's got the new teeth and everything, but it was always just had the smile. And even though I don't
seen the new teeth.
Oh yeah, man, he's set up now. But even though I speak no Portuguese and he speaks no English, we always made a point to shake hands and say hello. I think he respected me for the fact that I came down there so much, and I thought he was a great fighter. I remember the WC 53 event poster, the final WC event poster, the autographed ones. I collect some of them. I think they'll be cool to give to my kids someday. You've seen them at my house, and I have a few more that I don't have framed. But I remember that was one I wanted to pick up because he was on that card, and I thought this is going to be worth some money someday. You got Dominic Cruz that's on there. You got all these names, and he was like one of the preliminary fights, and I'm like, he's going to be UFC champion someday. I'm like, so that's another champ that'll be on there, and so. That was one that I did pick up. Obviously, I can't afford to buy them every week because they're expensive.
Yeah.
But I pick them up where I can, little unique areas. When we go to a country for the first time, that sort of thing, I'll save them because I want to give them to my kids someday. But I think Renan Barao, man, is a fantastic fighter. He's always in great spirits and a good mood, and has always been very nice to me. Did a great story for Fernanda. Who, of course, has been on the Road Show before and will be on the Road Show again next week. She actually helped me when she was working for UFC PR at the time. She helped me do an interview where she helped translate things where Renan really got into his childhood about, the fact that, the kid quit school in high school because he realized, like, he needed to fight to make money for his family. And, his mom or his parents, sold vegetables on the side of the road to at a little market or whatever to raise 10 kids. I don't know how much money you can make selling vegetables, but I got to think it's a little tough to make 10, enough to support 10 kids.
Yeah, wow.
Just incredible what he's been through. So I'm torn. I did end up picking TJ Dillashaw in the fight. But it would not shock me if Renan wins. I just think TJ's movement, his angles, all the things he does is going to be a little tough.
I agree, and I think you said it. I think you said it both about both the guys. I think they're two of the most upstanding individuals that are in the sports. I think they represent the sport from an athletic standpoint as being exactly what you should be like if you're trying to do this as a sport. Great technique, great strength, great athletic form, and they're just damn solid dudes, just nice guys. Like Renan, the same thing. I feel like I've had so many conversations with them, but they're probably just a matter of a handshake, a nod, a hello, an obrigado, a thank you, and just random stuff. But he's always smiling, always fun to work with. He was always grateful when we interviewed him for the UFC and did a different stuff when my time was there. And TJ again, coming from such a strong camp and then just always smiling. In fact, I think when I saw him I saw Chad coming out from his fight when we were here covering that one, and he happened to be there.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, hey, champ," and of course he stopped, walked back to give a handshake. He said, "How are you doing?" Just that kind of guy that could have an air about him. He could, "Oh, I'm the champ," carry some sort of ego or whatever. Just a stand-up dude. He'd come back and he was just always really, really nice. And that is a tough fight to call. I would be the first to say, I think a lot of us were surprised by the outcome last one.
Yeah.
But I knew that he went in there with the right mindset, and he was just absolutely incredible. And I don't think that there's going to be anything different with his mindset and everything going in. As Joe Rogan likes to say, Renan Barao is a monster, as you might have heard if you've ever listened to a UFC promo.
They wore that one out. God, they wore that one out.
But I think it'll be a great fight, and I think if anything, just I have nothing that will take away from with the fact that TJ's been riding on top right now. I'll have to give him the lean as the champ. I think he's going to train like a champion. But I like the fact that already Renan mentioned, I think, something earlier about how a trilogy is going to be in order, because he's already saying, like, hey, I'm going to beat TJ, and then we're going to run it back, I
love it.
And I love the idea, the thought of it, So I'm so looking forward to that fight. It's going to be so much fun.
It is. Well, another guy that's fighting this weekend, Danny Castillo, another Team Alpha Male fighter who actually didn't train in Team Alpha Male for this camp, actually went out with TJ Dillashaw out to Dwayne Bang Ludwig's in Colorado. Is somebody that I've known for a long time, somebody that I met actually out at Tachi Palace Fights in Lemoore, California, and got to know him before his WC days. Seems like forever ago. We were talking about how time has fly. Of course, everybody knows him as Last Call. I can tell you, I was at many last calls with Danny Castillo. We had a couple of beverages or two before he was ever fighting in the WC. But now the guy's been sober for 3 years, man. Hadn't had a drink in 3 years, and it's a guy that will he ever be a UFC champion? I'm not. There's nothing that indicates to me right now that he's going to be a UFC champion. I won't count it out. He's one of the hardest working guys right now. He'd have a long path to get there, and I won't deny anything that he can accomplish because he's got an incredible work ethic. But he's just somebody that is a stand-up individual, and for whatever reason, even though in this sport we do our best to be impartial, and we should be, and you can't openly cheer for or openly root against anybody. I certainly don't cheer against anybody. I don't wish failure upon anybody that participates in the sport. Anybody that makes the sacrifices that they do, and for yes, their own compensation, but also our entertainment. Man, I think they deserve the utmost respect, and sometimes I get frustrated at the hate that any fighter gets. But Danny is one of those guys that on the inside I quietly always pull for a little bit. When he's stepping in the cage, just because of the relationship and what I've known about it. And again, it's not like I can say, oh, this is my buddy, this is my friend. I'll never call him up and be like, hey, let's go get a beer or whatever. It's not like that. But, you kind of run into each other at after parties or at, situations where everybody's in the same place. We're all in the same town, and we happen to end up at the same bar.
Meetings,
you know what I mean? Stuff like that happens. And you develop relationships with guys. And Danny's just one of those guys that I've developed that relationship with over the years. And, again, that whole Team Alpha Male crew, obviously, they're super friendly, and it's easy to have that happen. So I'll be the first to say he is a guy that I do pull for a little bit on the inside. Obviously, I can't make that too public, but hey, it's our podcast. We're talking. That's what you
can do. What you want.
Show.
You can do what you want.
Yeah. I will say it's something that's cool too about Danny, and cool for him, I should say. But something that I really realized this week. So I went back through. I've been tracking all these Reebok payout numbers. Now it's official. I decided, what we need to do? We need to track this each week so people can see who's earning what each week, since it's a known number. And let's see, how much does the UFC pay out at the end of the year? How much do they pay out next year? And not doing any kind of complex tracking, but I just thought it'd be good. Obviously this is a story that's going to continue to develop. People are going to be following. I was like, you know what? Let's see what everybody's going to make each week and what's being paid out, and just kind of track it. But because of Danny's history in the WC, he's on the highest tier. He's getting $20,000, man, for his sponsorship payout. So the thing I really realized is that the biggest winners out of this Reebok deal were WC fighters.
Guys that came over?
Yeah, because you think about it, the lighter weight classes are the ones where it's tough to make money. But these guys racked up so many fights. Scott Jorgensen last week picked up $20,000.
Wow.
It's tough for those lighter weight guys to get the big money contracts, but because of this tenure that they had in the WC, those guys picked it up. So anyway, talk to Danny Castillo about a lot of those things. But before we play that, I mean, your thoughts? Yeah, have you had any interactions with Last Call over the years?
Yeah, one of the nice things I thought that I guess if anything that I'd take away quickly is when the last chatted with him, he had mentioned, he had started his own business, I believe it was like hot yoga, and was going to open up like a different location, a separate location, but he was really smart about it. Just, the way he went into it, he's like, I'm not going to take this money and just blow it away, He's like, I realize that, that fighting has there's a certain amount of time that you can do it well, So he's already was planning ahead, starting businesses, and I thought his whole mindset about already thinking about life beyond fighting was so smart and just well done, and I was so proud of him that this guy's much younger than me, but he just seems to have his head so much more on his shoulders, just in that aspect, so I respected the fact that he really wasn't one of these guys. He's not going to go out and buy a fancy car. He might have a fancy car, I don't know, but that wasn't his thing. He's like, it wasn't about the bling, it was about going out there and making sure that life after fighting was taken care of, and I was so respectful of that. And then before we go on, I mentioned earlier, how he was supposed to be on the radio show with George and those guys.
We talked about this for
when Stitch came. Danny was one of the scheduled guests, but when they came back from the schedule break, George, you'd kind of seen him. He had been texting or chatting or whatever the deal was, but Danny had offered up instead of taking his call because he realized that so many fans were trying to get in and voice their opinion on Stitch's parting of ways. that he gave up his time and he said, hey, can we reschedule and do the film call later because, I have the utmost respect for Stitch and I would rather give this time and let the fans be able to talk with him more and tell them as much. And I thought that was super outstanding and what a great fucking thing to do. He could have used the time to promote himself more, but realized that right then and there it was about Stitch and Stitch deserved, and I thought that was a very outstanding thing for him to do.
That was really cool. That was a cool story, man. I'm glad you shared that because, he ended up rescheduling, which is cool. He was still ended up being on MMA Junkie Radio this week, which is fantastic, but he moved it to later in the week, and as we all know, the later in the week you go with fighters on fight week, it's tougher for them because that's when they're getting into their weight cut, and that's when they're in a shittier mood, to be honest with you, and they're weaker and they're just frustrated, and it's hell for them, making weight, and so for him to voluntarily give up that time for Stitch and say, let's just talk later in the week when it's going to be worse for me. That's pretty
huge.
Cool. That's
pretty
huge.
Cool.
All right, well, so that is Danny Castillo. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you haven't heard Danny before, again, he's fighting on the prelims this week. A big fight for him against Jim Miller, a real veteran of the sport. And I think this is an intriguing fight for both men. So if you haven't heard much from Danny before, I got a chance to speak to him in his hotel room in Chicago earlier this week, and hopefully enjoy it. I think he's a really good dude. What's going on, brother?
Nothing much. Just hanging out in the hotel room.
How's Chicago treating you so far?
It was cool, man. It just kind of sucks because after that last fight, I went in the gym, was just hitting it hard, packing on some weight, and this is like the biggest foodie city I've ever been into in my life. There's just like awesome restaurants everywhere, and I'm just like, I'm still pretty big right now. All I can think about is what I'm going to eat, and the restaurants I'm going to. Like, I'm on Yelp looking at different restaurants. Of course, I got to go to the Michael Jordan restaurant, and there's a steakhouse called Prime that I'm dying to try, and I don't know, kind of tough.
That's the worst part of it, man. You're getting ready for a fight, you're getting ready for a cage fight, and all you're thinking about is getting some good food.
Yeah, Buckles and Fabio, they just went to a Brazilian steakhouse, and I was like, you son of a bitches.
That's not right, man. That's not right. Well, you mentioned your last fight, man. I mean, not the greatest place in the world to start. I know it didn't end like you wanted to, but man, talk about how do you move past that, man? I mean, how do you move past a moment like that and get refocused and get going on the right path again?
It's tough, man. I had a great training camp going into them, and not after being with the company 8 years and being a professional fighter for so long and having 21 fights with the company, I now know that training camps, don't really mean anything. I've had some incredible training camps, and I got out there and lost a fight. I've had bad training camps. I've went out there and finished a fight. So, I try not to put too much concentration after a training camp's done on so much on how I'm going to perform. But since the bell rang, I was just a little bit uncomfortable. I was just off my game. I was just off that night, And what's so exciting about this sport is, anything can happen, and I got fucking hit with some spinning shit. I got hit with a spinning back fist, and I've watched that fight a couple times, and I felt like he kind of got lucky with that spinning back fist, and 9 times out of 10 that wouldn't have hit me. But you got to be prepared for everything, and I had my hand down, and he caught me with it, and it made a name for himself in the sport, and I'm happy for him, and I'm excited to see him fight Barbosa, another guy that I lost to. I'm excited to see them lock horns, but after about a couple of weeks of sulking in my house and being bummed out, and I got back on the horse and I started training. I put my focus on getting bigger because I felt like that was something that's been one of my things. Like always, my whole career, I feel like I've been one of the smaller lightweights, and the last few fights I've had, Felder, Barbosa, Ferguson, even Brenneman, like those are all big lightweights, and so I wanted to put my focus and my energy into getting big, and I packed on about 4 or 5 pounds extra of muscle in the last 6 months. And that's what kind of fueled me is to find something else. You know, I try to find a positive out of that negative, and that was just to get bigger and not be the small guy.
No doubt. Yeah, I saw that. You know, you mentioned putting in work, man. It looks like you spent some time with Bang Ludwig out in Colorado. It looks like you did a little stint in Stockton as well. You kind of traveled around for this one a little.
Well, not so much. You know, I put my life on hold, my business on hold, because fighting is what's important to me. I mean, you know, it's pretty much my identity. I'm a fighter, man. I train, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been in the big show for a long time, and that's for a reason, because I work hard, and I feel like every time I step in that cage, I'm a little bit better in one way or another. And I have great chemistry with Dwayne, and it sucks that he moved away. But, you know, when I felt the best and when my striking was the best, I was working with Dwayne. So I decided to go out to Colorado. It was perfect that TJ was on the card because he was out in Colorado. We had a house there in Colorado, and we did camp there. And it was easier for me to stay focused. You know, I'm a single dude, man. So, you know, it's hard to stay focused when I'm at home, and you know I'm still dating. You know, I got girls that are there that you know just kind of keeps my mind off of being focused. I got the business, and you know, even if I was in, which I teach at my Pilates studio, even if I wasn't teaching, it's still something. You know, even being in Colorado, I still got a phone call every day about something with the business. So I needed to put all the distractions away and go out there and just focus primarily on training and getting better, and that's what I did.
No doubt. You mentioned the Pilates studio. I mean, from everything I see online, it looks like it's been a successful business for you, though, right? I mean, you kind of setting yourself up for your post-fighting career?
Yeah. You know, it's doing extremely well. We've been in business 2 years, and we were voted #1 studio in Sacramento 2 years in a row. So that's something that is good. It's good for me. It's good for business, but you know, it made it more worthwhile. And you know, at first when I started, it was exactly what you said. I was thinking about my career, and I mean my life after my career, but now that I'm doing it, and now that I've made some of these relationships with some of the members, you know, I get inspiration, I get motivation out of that, and I'm seeing people like transform their bodies and you know, like thank me for being a positive in their life, and that alone, like, not only makes me feel good about myself, but you know, it makes everything worthwhile. You know, that money that I had put away to buy, you know, the house with the pool and the 3-car garage. You know, I put it into the business, and you know, it served me well.
That's awesome. I guess just to make everything clear, you're definitely, though, team alpha male. I mean, even though you went out to Colorado, and of course Dwayne's made that move, I mean, you're still repping team alpha male, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's where I started. I don't know anything else. I mean, that's where I'll end my career with team alpha male. I mean, it's you know, it's one thing when you're a part of a team, like you can always leave a team, but you can't really leave a family, you know, and that's what we are. It's like there's no way I can leave those guys. Those are my buddies, and I for the most part, I think they understand that. You know, that there wasn't I didn't get any backlash or feel any grief about leaving. You know, to Colorado. The guys were all supportive and happy, and you know, I went out there for 3 weeks, and I came back home to Alpha Male for a week, and everyone was excited to see me. Everyone's saying positive things about me, and building me up. You know, and that's what a good team does, and that's what a family does, and that's what we are.
Well, that's cool, man. You mentioned it earlier. I was calculating before we got on the phone, but you mentioned this is your 21st fight under Zuffa. So you're in the top tier, right? This Reebok payout, man. You're getting the big check.
Yeah, hell yeah! It's about time, dude. It's not time something happens in my favor, but I was really worried about that because the whole Reebok deal, I heard they were coming in, they were taking care of the sponsorships, but I was just like, wait a minute, like I'm not in the top 10. I don't have the best record in the UFC. Like, what the fuck? I'm going to get screwed again. This is bullshit. And then I found out that they did the fight tier, and they included your WEC fights, and I was like, hell yeah, that's awesome. It might not be awesome for some of those other fighters who are new and have big names, but for me, like, I'm an 8-year vet, been putting in work for a long time. I've been in that cage. I've lost decisions. I've been knocked out. I've done the same to other people, and I put in work, and that top tier money is money that I deserve. I feel like that I've earned.
Right.
In a lot of ways, a lot of aspects, I feel like I've earned that money. Like just being here for so long, man. Like, people don't really understand. Like, they talk shit and they hate on me, and that's everyone. I'm sure you get it too. And whatever you write, it's fucking stupid. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Of course.
But it's like, what these people don't know is 8 years, man, 21 fights. Never once have I pulled out. I've never pulled out of a single fight. And that happens all the fucking time. And that's what pisses me off. Like, fuck, man, have some respect for me. I've never pulled out of a fight. I've never missed weight. I've never beat up my girlfriend, or I've never been in trouble with the law in the 8 years that I've been professional. I've never been in a street fight since I've been a professional. And, like, if you can't respect that, then I'm not sure what you respect, because I feel like I've been, not only that, but I've been a positive in my community. I feel like I'm positive on my Instagram, my social media. Like, I kind of turned my life around in that cage. I got sober, and that's like, I feel like that's the shit that people should respect, instead of fucking talking shit about me all the time and dissing me and fucking telling me I'm terrible and they can't wait to. I'm a Bellator grade fighter. Like, fuck you, motherfuckers. I've been working my ass off, getting better this whole time, and I just stay stagnant. You, of all people, you know fighters that are stagnant. You know fighters that don't improve. And even my last fight, I got knocked out, but my footwork was better. I looked better. My energy levels were better. Like, I was a better fighter. And I'm a better fighter every single time I step cage, and I'm going to be a better fighter on Saturday night, and I'm going to beat Jim Miller.
That's awesome, man. You mentioned being sober. I was going to ask you, obviously I am a fan of the frosty beverage a little bit too much. You and I have had a few back in the day. Are you still not drinking at all?
Yeah, completely sober. 3 years now.
Man, that's amazing. Still tough? Is it tough for you? Is it tough for you at all, or is it easy for you now? It's kind of your life.
It's it has got tougher lately. For some reason or another. It's being in Vegas, I was at Chad's after party. It's like I really had the urge to drink, which was weird as fuck. I mean, I guess it wasn't weird. My boy lost, and I had to deal with all these fucking drunk Irish fucks yelling horrible shit at me about my team, about Chad, and then we get to the after party, everyone's having a great time and drinking, and I was just like, fuck, man, I could definitely would love to have a Newcastle right now or a shot of Crown. So every once in a while, I get those urges, and a lot of the times they're in airports, and I'm always in airports these days. So, it's tough, but I know I'm a better person sober. I make better decisions sober, and I'm a better fighter sober, and that's all I want to be, man. I just want to be a better fighter. A better person, of course, but fighting is what I love. Fighting is what I love to do, and it's my career. And I promised myself, as long as I be a professional in the sport, that I wouldn't drink again. So that's the interesting part. Well, when I retire, I plan to stay sober because I've had so many positive things. I got a business and everything's going well, and I haven't lost my cell phone or wallet in 3 years. I haven't had any unnecessary drama in 3 years because I've been sober. But that's the plan is to be sober for the rest of my life. But it's tough, and I'm not afraid to say that I'm a little bit scared that when I'm done fighting, what's going to happen with the whole drinking thing, because I love to drink, man. It was something that was a part of me. It's something that I enjoy doing. So that's the tough part, man. Is after fighting, what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, much respect for what you've done, man. Trust me, I can relate. So much respect to that. Let me ask you the important stuff about the Reebok deal. How's their shoe game? Have you evaluated their shoe game yet to figure out if they've got any sneakers that you're going to be able to sport? I know you're a sneakerhead.
Yeah, man. I brought actually 3 pairs of my from my collection at home. 3 pairs of Reeboks.
Nice.
Out, and I've been wearing them around the hotel. And not because I don't like the Reebok stuff that they have. It's just that's who I am. I'm big in the shoe game, so I don't want to be wearing the stuff that everyone else is wearing around the hotel room. But the gear is sick, man. The bags, the clothes, like that stuff's awesome. When I checked in, like it's a whole new game now, and I think it's good. And a lot of reasons because it brings some. It brings like, I mean, we're legit now. Before it was just like cockfighting, dog fighting. There are 2 guys locked in a cage trying to kill himself. It's a barbaric sport, but every big profession has a big name clothing brand or sports apparel brand. Nike, Reebok, Adidas. You think of baseball, you think of basketball, football. They all have something, and now the UFC has something in it. It just makes us more professional, I think. So, the Reebok deal is cool, especially because they're paying me. I love Reebok right now. And it's good, dude. I checked in, and we went to go try on my uniform, and they had a seamstress on site, dude. Like, make sure that everything fits, like, perfectly. So they had my trunks. My trunks are being altered. My pants were being altered to fit perfectly, and they gave me a bunch of gear. So so far I'm okay with the Reebok deal. It doesn't. If anything, it does good. For another reason why is I've had sponsors who agreed to pay me and never paid me. Or they didn't pay me for 6 months. With a company like Reebok, I'm sure I can expect a check within the next month, and I don't have to worry about a check bouncing or anything. And yeah, you sign these contracts with people to sponsor you to keep on your shorts, but if they don't pay me $2,000, $3,000, am I really going to go to small claims court and spend $2,000 to get $3,000? Probably not. And it takes a lot of stress off of my plate. I don't have to pay my managers any sponsorship money about that. So, there's pros and cons to everything, and for me, like the Reebok deal, it's more of a pro for me than a con.
No doubt. Now, are you? You mentioned your shoe game. I got to ask, are you still the UFC shoe game champ? Because Joanna and Jacek, I don't know if you've seen her Instagram, her Twitter. She's got a pretty tight shoe game as well.
Bro, I don't even talk about that. Like, someone else said that to me. It's like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, how old is that chick?
Mid-20s, I think.
Okay, mid-20s. I'm 35 years old. I was collecting shoes when I was barely in high school. So everyone's just like, oh, her shoe game is so cool, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll put my shoe game against her any day. Any day. Like, any day of the week. Like, there's my shoe game is shitting on her shoe game, guaranteed. I'm the biggest sneakerhead in the UFC, and everyone knows that. And if they don't know that, then they must have just started following the UFC.
Well said.
And you can tell that. You can tell her that I'll put my collection against her collection any day of the week.
Well said.
Winner takes all.
That's hilarious, man. Well, I did want to ask you real quick, and not to get into it too much, but you mentioned the whole Stitch thing, and I don't want to get into the reasons why and that sort of thing. But what I did want to ask, I know you're tight with Stitch, and I just wonder, because people are talking about what this means for the UFC, and of course, he's a great hand rapper, he's a great cut man, he does those things, but as a fighter, is there something psychological there too, man? Like when you come back to the corner, or when you go to the corner and Stitch is there, is that kind of something special, something comforting that kind of you guys are going to miss moving forward?
Man, I was just talking about this. Like, I have a fucking picture of Stitch and I smoking a cigarette together. Smoking a cigarette together. He wrapped my hands for my very first fight in the WEC. I've known the guy for 8 years. Every time I come to a UFC event, he would wrap my hands. But the thing is that the UFC is getting so big, and there's so many shows now. The last few times I didn't even have Stitch able to wrap my hands because he was elsewhere. I'm really close to Stitch. In fact, I call him Theo, which is uncle in Spanish. And it sucks. It sucks that he's gone. But nothing's going to change for me, man. I'm going in there to do work on Saturday. Whether Stitch is in the corner or not. I got a job to do, and my job is to beat Jim Miller, and that's what I plan on doing. On a personal level, I'm sad to see him leave. He was great. Everyone loves Stitch, but again, I was sad to see Bert leave. Like, those are people that have been in my life for the last 8 years who I've grown close to and had relationships with them. And it sucks. But I've never been in a position where I was cut super bad in my career, knock on wood. So I don't know, how it would be to have someone else taking care of my cuts. I know that he's the man. But again, things happen, and that's the nature of the beast, man. This sport is growing. The UFC is getting so big, and downstairs there's about 20 new employees, Zuffa employees, that I've never seen before in my life. When before, it was just a small family, and all the Zuffa people did the UFCs. All the WC people would do the UFC events and the WEC events, and it's crazy to see the sport grow. But again, it makes us more professionals. We're like, in like 10 years, like UFC fighters will be more respected than, or just as respected as basketball players or the quarterback for a big NFL team, and that's where it belongs, because there's no professional athlete that works harder than mixed martial artists. There's just not, because there's just so many disciplines that you have to train in. You have to be good in everything. MMA, you have to be good at jiu-jitsu, good at wrestling, good at boxing, good at kickboxing. You name it. The list goes on and on. And on top of that, you got to be strong. So you got to do strength and conditioning. On top of that, you got to have a mental game. So there's so many different aspects you have to work. Like, we deserve big name sponsors like Reebok. We deserve the respect that some of these football players get. That, I'm sure there's linemen that don't do shit. I'm sure they're really good at what they do, but in terms of being an athlete, which is what they're called and what we're called, an MMA fighter is way better athletically than any other sport on the planet.
All right. Won't argue with you there, man. I will not argue with you there. Well, you said it, man. Jim Miller, the Saturday nights, I got to think, big fight for you, man. I know, you kind of want to erase the feeling of that last one. It sounds like you're kind of refocused and redetermined to accomplish, what you still can as a fighter. So do you feel like this is a big one for you?
Yeah. Jim Miller's been beating people up in the lightweight division when I was in the WEC. I feel bad for the guy, man. I remember at one point in time he was on a 6-fight win streak and didn't get a title shot. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. But I have a lot of respect for Jim Miller, man. He's a tough, gritty dude. And there's a lot of similarities in his game and my game. He's a good boxer. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's a wrestler. We're alike in a lot of ways, but I think I have the advantage in the speed. I think I'm a lot faster than him. I'm more athletic than he is. I'm going to be stronger than him. And, my stand-up is on a whole nother level right now. And I feel great about my wrestling. I feel great about my stand-up. I feel great about my jiu-jitsu. So, going into this fight, I have all the confidence in the world to go in there and do what I need to do and get my name back. I need my name to be relevant again in the lightweight division. You can list the who's who in the lightweight division. I fought them, in the top 10. In many cases, there would have been a ref that would have stopped that Michael Johnson fight when I put him down, and they didn't, and I came back and lost. I feel like I won that Barbosa fight, if not a draw at least. And he's in the top 10. Ferguson looks like he's going to crack the top 10 here, sure. And I feel like I beat Tony Ferguson. I fought Cowboy. I fought Anthony Pettis when I was really young and not prepared. But I fought the big names in the sport. And, those big names that Jim Miller fought in the sport are long and gone. In fact, when he was really big and talented, Joe Daddy Stevens was really big and talented, and he was my first fight in the UFC. So, I need to go out there and I need to win. Jim's had some tough fights his last few fights, and I feel like the fight has been taken out of him a little bit. He's had some wars, and I still haven't had too many wars. I haven't been in a fight where I've been beat up. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had a fight where I've been knocked out, but it's different than, it's different than fighting for your life and taking punches for 15 minutes.
I agree, brother. I agree. Well, I'm sorry I won't be there on Saturday night to watch it in Chicago, but I'll definitely be tuned in on TV and checking it out. And obviously, even though I'm an impartial journalist, there's certain people I always got to cheer for a little bit on the inside, and you're definitely one of those dudes.
I know, man. I appreciate it. You've been there, win or lose. When I come out of that cage, I always see you there, and it's gonna suck not to see you this time. But I know you're always pulling for me. You're a great guy, and I appreciate you always taking the time to interview me and have positive things to say about me.
You got it, brother. Always good to catch up, man. Hope you enjoy the rest of the week. That was Danny Castillo, the man known as Last Call, although he hasn't had a drink in 3 years, so it might be about time for him to change that nickname. But hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, Danny's been a good, I guess I'll say friend over the couple of years, and I always enjoy talking to him, so it's nice to be able to catch up with him. This is the MMA Road Show. John Morgan, cold coffee, sitting outside on the patio, enjoying this beautiful Las Vegas afternoon. Gets a little hot here in the summer sometimes, but it's really not that bad today. There's a little breeze blowing. Just clear skies, can't see a cloud in the sky. Enjoying a frosty beverage, of course, a Pabst Blue Ribbon, established in Milwaukee in 1844. I mean, that's just American history right there.
That's America for you right there.
That's what you got to do. So listen, I had something kind of cool this week. I had there's a publication here in Las Vegas called Vegas 7. It's a free publication, but it's out on newsstands everywhere. You can pick it up. There's one here right at the front door at Buffalo Wild Wings, Warm Springs, and Durango. But I got to write an article about Miesha Tate and Bryan Caraway. Actually, the editor had gotten my name. I had heard that I was in town and wants to kind of launch a little bit of mixed martial arts coverage in the magazine. And so I got a chance to write an article about Miesha Tate and Bryan Caraway, who both fight this weekend in Chicago at UFC on Fox 16. Are both going to make an earnest attempt to corner each other. Bryan Caraway fights first in the night against Eddie Wineland, and, of course, Miesha Tate fights later against Jessica Ai. Bryan actually asked if he could fight as early in the night as possible so that they could, split everything apart. They weren't trying to warm up at the same time, that Miesha would have an opportunity to kind of corner him and then let the adrenaline kind of settle after that and then get her own self ready for her fight, which is very intriguing. It's the first time they've done it in the UFC. They've done it 2 other times during their career, but the first time they've ever done it in the UFC where they've cornered each other, where they fought on the same night, the first time that they've cornered each other. Always enjoy talking. Of course, Miesha, one of the biggest superstars in the sport. Bryan Caraway, meanwhile, somebody that just gets universally hated on, and I think unjustly so. I actually enjoy talking to Bryan Caraway. He's a good dude. And it's cool to hear the history between them all. It's not something that's happened lately. I mean, they've been together for a long time. They've been dating for almost 8 years now. And something that I didn't know that I learned in writing this article, that they actually lived in an RV together for 18 months. It was the 2 of them and one other friend, just on the grind. Decided they wanted to be professional fighters. And, of course, at the lowest level of the sport, man, you're not making anything for money. So they were like, listen, we can't afford an apartment. We can't afford a car. We can't afford to go out and eat. So, Bryan was telling me they would just go to the grocery store and, get what little groceries they could buy and, cook. Miesha would help prepare dinner. They had this little tiny kitchen inside the RV. They actually hooked up to Dennis Hallman, another Pacific Northwest figure, a longtime veteran of the sport, actually let them kind of hook up to his gym as far as to power the RV, and then would allow them to go in and like take showers and stuff in the locker rooms, just while they were all sacrificing to try to turn this dream of theirs into reality. And I thought it was a cool story. I mean, to hear that level of sacrifice, and to see, especially how it's paid off for Miesha Tate. I mean, Bryan Caraway is in our rankings as well. He's been on, had a loss not too long ago, but he's had a couple of big wins as well. Again, a guy that I don't think deserves the hate that he gets. I mean, he's made some mistakes along the way. There's no doubt about it. But especially, his the things that he said towards Ronda Rousey,
Sure.
I think that was certainly a huge mistake on his part. But a guy that just gets kind of hated on too many times, that doesn't deserve it. But just thought it was kind of cool to hear their story and to hear the sacrifice they made, and to actually get an opportunity to write about it in a local publication here in Las Vegas that is going to try to cover a little bit more mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I think it's great. And besides, of course, it gives another reason to come to this BW.
Yes, sir.
Buffalo Wild Wings. So, you come out, pick that up. Maybe think BW3 or Buffalo Wild Wings. I always want to see BW3s. I have to shake that. You can say, hey, I heard I could pick up Vegas 7 where I can read about mixed martial arts. And, hey, I also hear that the MMA Road Show tapes here. Great thing that you guys are doing here. But, no, I had never heard that story about them living in RV. I think that's amazing. What a very neat story. That's shows the dedication that it takes to put into this kind of thing, And I do remember when we saw Bryan at Junkie Radio Studios, and I asked him about, what's it like to try to corner, which fight does he get more, worried about? And he said, obviously, it was about Miesha's fight. He's like, he gets to be a bit of a worrywart, like where his fight, he's like, they've kind of taken care of the things, but it's got to be hard to go in there, and then now you're watching your significant other get in there. And that's why I wonder, that's, even though if it's early enough, maybe Miesha can be able to shake off whatever, hopefully she'll have a whole bunch of elation to take into her fight, but that's got to be a lot of stress, and I can only imagine what that's like to do that. But they've done it before, they never really cornered each other,
Right.
but still, I think to be there and fight on the same night asks for quite a bit. But that's very cool, and yeah, I mean, like you said, the guy said some things. I know most people probably just universally hate because they're like jealous. Everybody's hater. Haters gonna jealous. Like his girl's she's fucking hot. So hey, people are gonna hate on him. I remember when I was joking, I was like, so about your hot girlfriend. And I'm like, no, don't hit me. And he takes it in stride. Like, hey, I think that's one of those things. But hey, I say good on to him, man. If he can, keep it all together, and then they're making the relationship work. They're obviously doing something right. So
it will be interesting to follow on fight night because, of course, as you said, I mean, getting in there and fighting is one thing. Not that I would know, but
yeah, our extensive.
I've done enough interviews
with my record of 0-0 matched with your 0-0. We're going like 1,000.
In the interviews that I've done and the mindset that I get, I think getting in there and fighting is one thing, but obviously, watching a loved one, whether it be a parent, whether it be a kid, whether it be a wife, a girlfriend, or whatever, watching a loved one, knowing there's nothing you can really do for them, has got to be tough. I think back to Dallas, UFC 185, I believe it was, where Sergio and Anthony Pettis both lost on the same night, and
yeah.
I don't want to take away anything from Rafael dos Anjos, and I'm not trying to say that's the reason Anthony lost in the title fight, but you just can't tell me that it doesn't deflate your sails a little bit to see your kid brother go out there and get knocked out, and so I think it could be very similar here. For Miesha to be in Bryan's corner, if he picks up a big win, I think it's certainly, I think that'll be a good thing for her, although she will have to settle her emotions. She will have to calm down and get herself ready for her own fight. But if he suffers a loss, particularly if it's in devastating fashion, I mean, can you imagine what if he gets knocked out? What if he gets knocked out in brutal fashion?
Yeah.
And Miesha's got to think about that. He gets carted off to the hospital for transport,
Yeah.
And
That's gonna be
Miesha's
hard
got
to
to
shake.
think about, oh my gosh, how hard would that be to shake
Yeah.
as she's getting ready for a fight. So I think it's going to be a real interesting storyline to follow on Saturday night. And, of course, we wish them the best. They said, listen, we're hoping we'll just have one hell of an after party where we're both celebrating wins. And the one thing she did say that was cool in this article was how much easier it's been to get ready for the fight and make weight and all that stuff. Because she was saying, look, you're dieting down and you're kind of miserable, over those last couple of weeks of training camp. And it's like if your partner's not doing the same thing, it's like you're in this shitty mood and, they're like, hey, what's wrong with you, a-hole? Like, I know you're getting ready for a fight, but quit being like, now it's like, hey, they're both kind of in that same state of mind. They're both kind of in that. So going to be real interesting to follow. But anyway, that was my Vegas 7 debut. Hopefully I get to do more work for them in the future. So an interesting thing that I want to do this week, one other interview that I was able to do that I want to play, Lorenzo Hood. And it's a name that a lot of people probably won't know, but when I saw that he got signed to Bellator MMA, I thought, now this is a guy we got to talk to, because Lorenzo Hood is somebody that you and I met at the launch of this podcast, the MMA Road Show, because we were down in South Florida, and he was training at the Black Zillions, and we were down there, of course, for a couple of days to visit the Black Zillions, an American Top Team, and there was a lot of people training at those two gyms, and we only had one day at each one, and again, when you say you have a day, that doesn't mean you're getting a full day of filming. We're not the UFC that we can tell the fighters, I need you here at this time, I need you here. It's more like we show up for practice, and we beg and pray that you'll stick around for a little bit so that we can get a few minutes with you, and so that's kind of the system that we were operating under, and Lorenzo Hood was at the Black Zillions gym, and straight up he saw us, and he was like, y'all need to be talking to me. I'm just saying, I'm the next big thing. I'm coming, man. As soon as they give me my chance, I'm coming. You need to be talking to me. And I'm like, who is this dude, man? Like, this is hilarious. Like, this guy's awesome. And I will say, I mean, you give him the old visual size up. It wasn't like I was like, oh, who is this chump? I mean, you could say, like, nah, that dude looks like he can fight.
Yeah.
And, but we just bottom line is we ran out of time.
Yeah.
But then, sure enough, he got signed to Bellator. He's going to be making his debut in August. And I figured we had to talk to him. And so I hope you don't mind, Cold Coffee, that I snuck in somebody on the side over here, because I just thought after that experience that we had in Florida that somebody, would have that kind of swagger to just be like, need to be talking to me. I thought it'd be kind of funny.
I love it.
So, I thought you were going to say something. So I was gonna
I thought that was great. No, the guy.
Damn it. I'm choking on my beer.
No, it was great. He had a lot of attitude and especially being at such a camp that is just chock full of badasses. Probably, to hear guys say that, it wasn't like we're like, oh, yeah, right. It was more like, all right, yeah, okay, well, we'll see. I wish we could interview you, but we had to get this guy. Granted, we just got done interviewing like Rashad and like Henry, who literally the top of the game, And shit, what has that been, like maybe 2 months, and here he is. So fucking
crazy.
Congratulations on his hard work. And
anybody says podcasting is easy. I was trying to time my cold beer consumption with your comments, and you just laid out on me, man. So this is expert level stuff here. Things like this happen. So
Subban.
That was fantastic. All right, so something a little different. Bellator MMA prospect will be making his Bellator debut in August. Lorenzo Hood. Had to learn a little bit about him. He had some fantastic stories about his early days in fighting, how he came involved with the sport. A former football player that actually took a break from MMA a while to follow that career in professional football, and then made his way back to MMA. So spoke with him this week as well. Hopefully you enjoy meeting Lorenzo Hood.
John, you're on with the Samoan Silverback.
Lorenzo, how you doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on?
Not much, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
No worries, man. I appreciate you guys wanting to talk to me.
You got it. Well, I had to talk to you, man. I was just, I felt bad. I was just down at the Black Zillions a couple months ago. We were doing some filming, and, you were kind of running around the gym, and we ran out of time. We just didn't have time to get to some of the people we wanted to talk to. But I know at that time you were confident. You were kind of saying, listen, I'm going to be the next big thing. I just need my shot. So tell me, man, what gives you that confidence, man? What did you feel in yourself that you knew that your time was coming?
Man, I kind of just knew, man. Some things you just kind of know. Like I've been working hard. I've been training hard, training with some of the best in the world, and competing at a high level, and just confident in my abilities and who I am, and being just a different breed of heavyweight. I kind of just knew that eventually it just kind of was going to happen.
You've been fighting professionally since 2009. How did you originally get into mixed martial arts?
Actually, man, I was actually boxing, and a couple of my buddies were doing MMA, and I went to an MMA fight. Obviously, I'd never fought. It was an amateur fight, and one of the guys had got hurt, and they needed a guy to fill in, and they asked if
my coach at anybody, and he's like, I got a guy who boxes, but you know he's never fought MMA, and that was it. I had my first amateur fight that night in a pair of shorts and a cup.
That's fantastic. How did it go for you?
It was good, man. I won in 15 seconds.
That's not too bad. And right away you said, well, this is easy. I might as well just keep doing this.
Yeah, you know, I kind of got into that, and I was like, oh man, this is a lot more fun. And I started, you know, a lot of kickboxing, and you know, that was kind of it. I kind of fell in love with kickboxing.
That's funny. I know that sometimes records are a little off, you know, especially in, you know, the small shows and that sort of thing. Sherdog has your first professional fight is on Valentine's Day in Butte, Montana. Bloody Cage Valentine was the name of the show. I'm curious, was that actually your first professional fight? And if so, what do you remember about it?
I think my first professional fight was like Battle in the Yard or something. It was in a barn, Battle in the Barn or something like that. I fought Sean something. I can't remember his name, but yeah, I remember it being this huge barn that smelled horribly. I remember thinking to myself, like, this cannot be a professional fight. But this can't be a professional fighter. I think I made like $120. I just remember just the whole thing being crazy and understanding, like, wow, this is what it's like. You know, and the guy I was fighting at the time, I was debut. He was like 7-1, and I remember being able to see him, and I could hear him hitting the pad across from me. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what the hell is this noise? And my coach kept trying, and I looked over there, and it was this guy hitting pads, and I was like, oh, my God, what am I doing? What have I gotten myself into? And I remember being terrified, man. I remember thinking to myself, like, what the fuck am I doing? I got a degree. I don't need to be doing this. And, you know, it went well. I won and stuff like that. I remember the feeling before that, you know, and just being in this place. I'm like, what am I doing this for? $175, and this guy is back there breaking the pads. I was like, what am I doing?
That's hilarious.
So that was my first pro experience, man. I remember being terrified and it smelling like cow manure.
That's hilarious. What was your degree in, and what were you going to do if you didn't end up fighting?
I got a degree in sports marketing.
Oh, that kind of serves you well as a fighter, then.
I mean, yeah. You know, but I got football. Football was always my original love. Played all over. So if it wasn't fighting, it would have been football for sure.
No doubt. Now, you were super busy in 2009, and then I mean, according to your record, there's a 5-year break. Did you go to boxing? Did you take off from sport? What happened during that break?
So in between that break, I was playing football, and I went and played in Canada. I played arena ball, kind of just playing all over, just playing everywhere, and I took a hiatus from it all. And you know, I wasn't sure if it was something that and then everywhere I go, a lot of especially places that people knew me, the number one question I always got was like, man, you know, you can fight again. When are you going to fight again? When are you going to get in the cage? You know, what are you going to do? And there's always a question everyone always wanted to ask me, and I was like, you know what? Like, finally, I just got kind of tired of it. I was like, you know, I need to get back to it. Let me go see what I got. And you know, it was actually just kind of funny to test the character. Like one of the tattoos I have. I said, adversity introduces a man to himself. My first fight back, I come back and I'm beating the dude, and I hit him and hurt him almost to the point where he drops to one knee, and my forearm snapped. My first fight back. So, you know, I come back. So not only do I get the loss, but in a fight that I didn't even get hit once, I got a loss and I had an injury. So I was like, man, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I just need to, you know, cut it out. But, you know, as soon as I was healed, I was right back in the gym training. And that was that, man. And the story goes from there.
That's awesome. What positions did you play in football?
Defensive end.
Nice. Did you play in arena league? Do you have to play both sides of the ball, or you just play defense?
Well, yeah. Well, you can either be a specialty player. So if you play defensive end, you play offensive tackle, or you can play a center, or guard, basically, in arena. But I played defensive end and fullback.
Very cool. Very cool.
And then I played defensive end in Canada.
Nice. Did you were you able to support yourself doing that? Or did you have to have a job as well, or did football pay the bills?
Yeah, I was able to support myself with that. At one point when I was playing arena football, I was managing a gym, I was just managing like a regular, just regular gym, Oz Fitness, name of the place I was working at, and training and things like that. But I've always kept up, kept up with boxing and kickboxing. Something I was always doing, even while I was playing football. I was always, going to different classes in different places. So I got to just going around, kind of got knowledge from everywhere that I was able to go to.
Very cool. And how did you get hooked up with the Black Zillions?
So we had talked. They had been calling. We've been going back and forth talking for a long time. They wanted me to go down there originally, and I was busy, and then ended up being the connection was Rashad was from Chicago, and I guess some guys at a club had showed him a couple of videos of mine, and he was like, "Dude, who is this kid? And why is he not signed to UFC or Bellator or whatever?" And so through social media, he reached out, touched base, and that was that. So I kind of, that was all I needed. Went down there and training on there for a while, and I love it. It's a great experience. Those guys are great down there.
You've moved on since then, though, right? Are you back in Illinois now?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back in Illinois. It's really hard because I got a lot of family here in Chicago, and my mom's kind of sick. My aunt, she's really so. It's hard to be gone for super long periods of time, or even to relocate.
Sure. No, definitely understandable. I will say that, while we were down at the gym, it did seem like you and Rashad had built kind of a strong relationship, kind of a bond or a friendship. I guess, how did that start? Is it just that connection, and what has he meant to you as far as your development goes?
Oh man, it was it was great. I mean, from the moment that kind of got in, I mean, he opened the doors to me, let me stay there. And we just kind of hit it off, man. We just kind of we traveled together. We went to. I was supposed to fight in March 28th. I was supposed to fight March 28th against Jeremy May, and we flew out to Pensacola, Florida, on Roy Jones' promotion card, and Jeremy May ended up leaving in the middle of the night, or something happened. He didn't make it the next day. Let's just say that. But like that whole trip, we were down there for like 4 or 5 days, and talking, and just kind of me and him just kind of bonded, just from a fighter coming up to a fighter who's been there and been light heavyweight champion of the world, and just listening to him talk about stories of him fighting and things he went through in his personal life, and good or bad, it kind of just was a great experience for me, and it kind of being two underprivileged guys growing up, I think we kind of really meshed really well. It's easier for us to have a bond because we had a lot of things in common.
Very cool. So the big break is now, man, and this is an interesting time for up-and-coming prospects like yourself. I mean, the UFC is certainly still the biggest organization out there, but they're going through some changes right now. Bellator's got a lot of great things happening. Of course, you got World Series of Fighting out there as well, but ultimately you choose Bellator. So why was Bellator the right spot for you?
It's a good question. I guess the number one question everyone's asking, why not the UFC or why not somewhere else? And, for me, it was really simple. Bellator, when you watch a Bellator event, you kind of get the feeling of like a WrestleMania type event. You get that dramatic feeling. Obviously not staged like WrestleMania, but you get that, the overall fan value. Like, they want the fans to have a great time. They want people to be interested. They want people to be excited about what they're watching. It's more about the fans as opposed to just producing a show every week, and getting the same 10 guys fighting over and over and over again. So that was a big factor there for me. And then another factor was it just, being able to, being a less, I don't know if this even makes sense to a lot of people, but being, a less fortunate guy, didn't have cable and stuff growing up, or be able to watch a pay-per-view. And I'd much rather people be able to watch something on Fight TV than, have to pay for a pay-per-view. And I mean, I don't know if that makes sense for others, but
yeah,
for me, it definitely was a big thing in my thing. And, no matter how big I get, I want people to be able to watch me and not have to pay for it,
That's awesome. I've never heard that answer before. I mean, it does make a lot of sense, though. It's just really cool. I've never heard somebody come from that point of view. Your first fight will be next month, obviously, Rafael Butler. Give us your thoughts, man. What do you think about the guy?
I mean, I think he's a tough dude. I think he's a good boxer. He's got really good hands, really good patience. Other than that, I don't. He's had a lot of boxing fights. He has like 40 or 50 pro boxing fights. And anytime you have a lot of those fights, I don't know, in his second to last fight, he kind of got hit really soft and kind of see that his chin maybe is, kind of just, after you take so many shots, especially in boxing, your chin, starts to go down a little bit. So, I don't know, but it'll definitely be tested fight me. This would be my toughest fight yet. Definitely fighting a guy, another highly touted striker. I think that my kickboxing is definitely going to win me this fight. Just being the fact that he just primarily likes to box, and I use my legs, I use my knees. I'm definitely an athletic kickboxer as opposed to just your flat-footed heavyweight.
Sure, it's been nothing but first-round finishes for you up to this point, but. Obviously, first-round finishes get tougher and tougher the higher you go up the chain. The tougher level opponents you fight. So, are you going in with that same mentality that you think you can, get rid of him in the first round, or do you have to come to the realization that, I may be at a level now where guys are going to be able to push me a little further?
Yeah, I definitely think obviously going up in the higher levels, and who you're fighting in the talent level, it's definitely going to be harder. Do I think that guys are going to be? I don't think people are going to be able to withstand the type of pressure that I'm going to put on people. It's a different style, and definitely I bring a different style of fighting than people are used to. And I think that I honestly think in the first round, I'm going to push the pace, and I think I'm going to end up every late first round, get a finish, and that's that. Nothing against like I said, I respect all my opponents. I respect everyone who gets in the cage, but. I definitely think I'm going to put him away in the first round.
Awesome, brother. Well, we will be tuning in and watching for sure, man. I appreciate you taking the time and catching up with me, man. Any other last thoughts or messages or anything that we can get out there for the audience?
Yeah, definitely, man. I think the world, I'm about to put the world on notice. I'm going to put the world, and they're going to know who I am. And those who have been following me, definitely, I've been saying it for a long time. Like I said, I had no problem telling you guys, hey, man, I'm going to be the next big thing. Like, you might want to get an interview now. But, within 2016, mid-2016, I'll have the Bellator heavyweight strap around my waist. I know that for a fact.
Awesome, brother. I love it, man. I love the confidence. I love the swagger that you had. And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk to you a couple months ago, but we're glad I got to do it today.
Hey, man, no worries, man. I appreciate that.
You got it. I hope we'll talk again soon, brother. That was Lorenzo Hood. I'll definitely be looking forward to his Bellator MMA debut again. A guy that we met behind the scenes a couple months ago, and now he's getting his chance in the big show, just like he told us that he would. So, John Morgan, Cold Coffee, wrapping up the MMA Road Show in Las Vegas again, and just a fantastic, beautiful afternoon. The Pabst Blue Ribbons, the frosty beverages are going down smoothly.
The sunlight, the breeze, a nice piece of shade. Like, people don't realize how good this is. This is like a little piece of shade, and you're looking out in the sun, see the mountains, the wind's coming through.
See the mountains. People forget about that.
Yeah.
You think it's just flat desert, but man, getting to see the mountains. I grew up in Texas. It was flat. You didn't get to see mountains. You get to see that stuff here.
No. In the great state of Ohio, we had some hills, so that's about it,
That's it, man. Well, it's been a crazy week. Listen, from Stitch Duran termination, obviously all the things that have been going on with Reebok, UFC Fox 16 this weekend, just so much going on in the world of MMA. Of course, we were getting back from Scotland to San Diego, so it's just a hugely busy week, a crazy week for MMA. Of course, it will continue right along next week. The MMA Road Show will be coming to you from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, UFC 190. I will be down there. Young Mike Bond will be there as well, so we might have to have Mike Bond back on as well, let him talk a little bit of MMA. You, of course, were supposed to go. Sad to say that visa implications. Hey,
I know.
Visa these things
shit
happen
is
in
legit.
MMA.
It's real, Like, that was a pain in the butt trying to get that, and then still to finally get denied is and due to no legalities, they were trying to say that for some reason a guy coming down for USA Today is not a journalist. That's not a journalist visa. It should be a business visa. I'm like,
I'm going to do journalism.
It's for journalism, but hey, it is what it is. You know, I respect the great consulate of Brazil. You know, and I'm sure they have their reasons or whatever.
We will get that handled because you will be in Brazil in the future. I know that.
I will
for sure.
get there. We'll get there eventually. So.
Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed this. As I said before, follow us the MMA Road Show on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, you can download the show at the MMARoadshow.com or get on iTunes. Subscribe to it on iTunes. Leave us a review. We prefer you not say we suck, but you can say whatever you want. But I mean, we'd really like some good ones. That'd be good.
That'd be nice.
I mean, if you think we suck, say we suck. But if you think we're good, that'd be good too.
Yep.
Appreciate everybody. Again, subscribe to us, follow us, do all those things. Listen, tell other people to listen. Tell them that this is the greatest show.
This Thursday.
Tell them it's okay.
The greatest show that's ever happened on a random Thursday in Las Vegas.
It is the greatest MMA podcast recorded
At
on a Buffalo Wild Wings
ever.
Yeah, let people know. That way they know to tune in. And more than anything, of course, thanks for listening.
Maybe, I was just thinking, sitting here and being in B-dubs, maybe wet nap. Like a wet nap, like for B-dubs.
I refuse to call you
I'm
Wet
not going to
Nap.
let it. No,
Say, that's my dog, Wet Nap.
Cold coffee's where it is.
Cold coffee is where it is.
Sorry, G345.
FUG345. And your wet blanket. He's cold coffee. That came from Bird Watson. Anyway.